Okay, can you state your name and what office you're running for?
Yes, I am Toni Rhodes Glover, and I'm running for Justice of the Peace in Precinct 4, Tarrant County.
Okay, and why are you running for that office?
My background is, I'm 74, so it's quite a bit, but I have been an advocate, political advocate for many, many years. I've served as a commissioner for the state of Texas for human rights and civil rights. I currently serve on a state Supreme Court board that I thought was going to be about 3 years. It's going into my 7th or 8th year, actually. And this was something that, to me, was a continuation of everything I've done so far. It was an answer to a prayer for the education. I graduated in 2014 from UTA with pre-law poli-sci, was heading to law school. Became trained instead in mediation because it was a faster pace. It still would allow me to do what I want to do, which is to serve people. And I know that nobody wakes up in the morning and just can't wait to get into a courtroom, so I think that they should have somebody that has experience. I was horrified to find out actually that this particular position did not require any prerequisites, but I do have them.
Okay, and just, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but can you describe your qualifications a little deeper for the office that you're running for?
Yes, actually, I have a daughter that's 47 years old now that was born with severe disabilities. And very early on in her life, I became a political advocate while we were living in California. I am a Texan, and it's good to come home. But I was very involved politically. I got involved with a national organization and spent time on the Hill at least once a year, if not twice, working on pieces of legislation that we were either trying to put into place or have taken out of place. And then, like I say, it went on to other forms of advocacy. And currently, I also serve on Mayor Betsy Price's Council for People with Disabilities. I serve on Judge Glenn Whitley's IDD Needs Council and MHMR CAC Advisory.
Okay. What do you believe the proper role of government is?
To listen to, understand, and then support the issues that are critical to people's lives.
Okay. When and for what reason should state or local government be allowed to seize private property under eminent domain?
I'm not sure how to answer that. It would really depend on the situation, but that's absolutely a tough one.
Okay. Is Texas in need of civil asset forfeiture reform?
I don't think there's any place at this point in time dealing with some of the things that we're dealing with that can't look at reform or at least reevaluate whether we're in the place we should be.
Okay. What is your position on marriage rights?
As relating to who could be married, or I have absolutely no problem. This is, by the way, I'm glad you brought this up because there have been 2 questions I have been asked on a pretty steady basis. One is, where are you on gun control? And what if somebody came into you and wanted to be married to the same sex? If I'm elected to serve people, let me say when I'm elected to serve people in my district, that means all people. That means if whatever the situation is, then I'm there to provide what they need.
Okay. What are the top 3 issues for your campaign?
The top 3 issues?
Yes, ma'am.
One is that, as I think I mentioned previously perhaps, but I believe very strongly that the Justice of the Peace should be somebody that has a background that helps to support what a seated judge actually has to deal with when the cases come in, rather than just somebody that's been fabulous in whatever area be it real estate, or I raised 3 kids single-handedly in the car business. So in the car business, a salesperson, whatever, I really, that bothers me a lot. And I also am concerned in our district, from what I have been told, we have the highest incidence of backlog cases out of 8 JP precincts in Tarrant County. I don't see any excuse for that. I do know that the judges make their own hours, their own days and their own hours, which is fine as long as the job gets done. We have, our courtroom has now been referred to as the wedding chapel, which I think is highly offensive. And I have no problem doing weddings. I would enjoy doing weddings. But I think that the cases have to take priority.
That's a great answer. Okay, can you tell me, what do you believe are the top 3 things that make you more qualified than your opponents?
Well, this may not be the best way to start, but I am 74. I am the proud great-grandparent of 14 kids, and for all the schooling I've had and all the experience I've had as a commissioner and serving on the state Supreme Court and so forth and so on, I'm not so sure a lot of it hasn't come from that experience. That would be one. And the other is that I have put a lot of time into my education, and I want to bring that now into something that will enhance not only my daughter's life, but mine and other people's, and do right by them. You need a third, right? The third would be just to, and this isn't to play on words, but to bring justice to my community.
Please describe your political experience as well as experience as an election volunteer, staffer, candidate, or office holder, being sure to include the names of any candidates or office holders for whom you have worked or volunteered.
Okay. The first volunteer pops up is when I was going to school at UTA. I had worked as an intern for a short period of time in Congresswoman Kay Granger's office, but they had already been somebody that I had a very close relationship with her office because due to my daughter's challenges, one thing I learned very early on was if you get confused about where you need to go for assistance, you just follow the money. And so if it was a federal issue, I knew where to go. If it was a state issue, I knew where to go. And fortunately, at local level, we have J.D. Johnson as our commissioner, who has always been very supportive of people with special needs. And now I've probably gotten off track. So were there 2 more things I was supposed to add here?
Just any other political experience you've had?
Oh, okay. Yeah, very early on, I think I had mentioned previously too, because of some challenges that we were seeing in the state of California where we were living at the time, I did become politically involved with Fred Aguirre, who was the Speaker of our House at the time, he had turned to me one day, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but we were at a Chamber of Commerce thing, and he had turned to me one day, and my daughter was there, and said, "Does Christy vote?" And I said, no. She was approximately 20 years old at the time, but very severely involved. And he said, "Why not?" And I said, "There is no answer." Because he said, she would vote the same way you and I vote. Name recognition, somebody we've had an experience with before, and he was absolutely right. And at that point, I became much more involved in people that had a litany of challenges and fought for their right to vote, and it just kind of went from there.
Okay. And lastly, if you'd like to tell the voters or anybody on the board anything more about yourself or your campaign.
I feel that, and this is not ego speaking, I know, in fact, that I am much more qualified for this particular position based on my experience and my training and my commitment to sit 5 days a week, however many hours it took a day to hear the cases that needed to be heard.
Okay, and is there a website? Do you have a website or Facebook page?
I do, actually. I do. It's www.ToniRhodesGlover, numeral 4, capital J, capital P. And the first initials of each of my names is capitalized.
Okay, so Toni Rhodes Glover for jp.com.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.